Welcome to Can, the podcast where we crack open real conversations about creativity, marketing, and brand building. I'm Ben Van Roy, founder of Human Digital, the B2B marketing agency. I'm a marketer, strategist, and coffee addict, and I've spent over 20 years helping brands grow from local startups to global giants.
I'm Steph, founder of Q Marketing. I'm an expert in consumer brands. I've worked on large brands here in New Zealand and overseas, and I really believe in the power of great creative. Each week on Canned, we talk shop. The real talk. No fluff, no jargon. Just straight up stories and strategies from inside the creative grind.
So let's crack open a can of whatever you like and let's get into it. Happy Thursday. So this is different. We're recording on a Thursday. We normally record on a Friday, but yeah, things are moving this week. So we're being agile.
We're flexing. Yep, moving with the times.
So flex. But we've got a lot to talk about this episode. Yeah,
this is exciting. This is our first episode where we're not talking about Cannes, the festival. We're actually diving into the world of marketing. So, I'm really, really pumped about today's topic, actually, Ben. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's very relevant at the moment. I mean, it's what to do when finance slashes your budget.
Let's do a recap on the week. How's your week been going, Ben? What's been happening?
This has been a busy week. I have been in Sydney this week, so I flew over on Sunday, and I have been catching up with some clients in Sydney. Went to a couple of presentations. I met with Alex at Claire Hayes' house talking about South by Southwest. So South by Southwest happening in October.
That's exciting.
That's really cool and a great opportunity for marketers in New Zealand and in Australia to pop along. And the South by Southwest, I think this is their third time in Sydney. I went last year. Was amazing. Lots of great brand activations, great people, really interesting. There's different passes, and I think they've made tickets cheaper this year.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more accessible.
Is there a difference between South by Southwest Sydney, South by Southwest in Austin, and kind of who goes to South by Southwest as a starting point?
Brilliant. So I'm not an expert in South by Southwest. It has its birthplace in Austin, Texas. So their claim to fame, they've got a few. They've had a lot of prominent speakers there. Different products have launched. It's very tech-centric. So a lot of it is tech, but also music, also film. So very creative. I think what you've got is you've got partying, you've got a lot of creators there, and you've got brand moments. You've got moments to create brand, to create connections, to find customers, to learn, to network, and we marketers, we love to network. We love some drinks.
Sounds great. So you've obviously, Sydney's been great. What else happened in Sydney while you were there?
Oh my God. So I don't know if you follow me on socials. I am a little bit obsessed with Labubu. I think it is, if anything, just a marketing phenomenon. And if you're like me, you probably collected trolls and maybe Cabbage Patch dolls when you were a kid. Or what did you collect, Steph? Did you have a collectible?
What did I collect? I definitely had a Cabbage Patch Kid. I didn't have a collection of them. Definitely Smurfs. Actually, I'm aging myself, but I collected Smurfs for sure. I'm really intrigued by this Labubu thing because I walked past a Pop Mart store the other day and there was just a line out the door and I'm like, what? Why? I don't get it. So break it down.
So I think the reason that Labubus are so popular is they have a number of things that are going for them. The first one is scarcity. And I think they've really built scarcity. And I've actually got one here, which I'll open live. It's unopened, but they have a limited supply, and they release them into the stores only at certain times.
How do you know when one's going into store?
You don't know.
Okay, so I just go to a store and I hope for the best.
Well, you kind of have to be in the know. So I'm not completely up to speed with how to get them, but my understanding is there's, WhatsApp groups and there's a whole lot of people that are following the stores, and the stores will send emails saying when they're releasing things. So yeah, you definitely have to be in it to win it. But Scarcity, definitely. Also, I think what's going for them is you don't know what you're going to get. So they call them blind boxes. So this is an example. This is the Big Into Energy. So it's a blind box. So you don't know which Labubu you're going to get. This one there's 7 varieties you can get here. So you can see there's 6 main colors here, and it also shows you the chance of getting one.
I'm just failing to give a shit. Like, I'm just absolutely failing to give a shit.
These are all 1 of 6. And then you also, to really increase the draw, you've got this one here, which is the secret one, which is like a special edition. So essentially you've got people trying to collect them and everything. So shall we open this one and see what I got? It's quite an intricate box. This is the first one I've opened, so I haven't opened these before. Apparently you're supposed to leave the box intact, but I don't really care about the box.
Let me guess, is that for the resale value on the black market? Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. And so you open it up. Oh, and
things have taken a turn.
There's this on it. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is like
that. It could be any color.
Little bag. It could be any color. Oh, and there it is.
Just like that, it's over.
Yeah, but that's cool. And so there's this little tag. You can hang it off your bag so everyone can see it. And this one, it looks like it got happiness. So if I look at that, this looks nice. Like a kind of an orangey color. So yeah, I think it's cute. It's cute. Yeah.
Let's bring this back. So if we think about the marketing of Labubu, Scarcity, sure. How long do you think, like based on what, how long do we think this craze is going to go for? Like, because at some point there'll be a pile of Labubu sitting in a corner, unloved.
I think it has at least another 2 years, I'm sure. So what's happening now is brands are jumping on board. And so now Labubu is entering, like if we think about the curve, the adoption curve, we're definitely getting towards the height. So they're now doing collabs, some of them official, some of them unofficial. So, sportswear, I think Coca-Cola just released a collab.
So I could get a Gucci Labubu if I wanted, for example.
I'm not sure if they have Gucci Labubu. There's also a market of creators that create clothing for the Labubu. So even if it's not an official Gucci collab, you can go and buy your Gucci for your Labubu, on different marketplaces, on Facebook, on Trade Me, they're all over.
Right, so that'd be a massive flex, right? Not only have I got a rare Labubu, but my Labubu is wearing Louis Vuitton or Gucci. I see exactly how this is going. Okay, well, this is great.
They become your little, your little baby, your little fur baby. You collect it, you look after it. It's really exciting.
Well, I look forward to seeing you wearing it at the next networking function we attend.
I will hang this somehow off my body or off my bag. You will definitely see it, and I might try and dress it. We had a little thing at Human Digital where we dressed one up as a pretend collab. So maybe I'll get my sewing machine out. I don't have a sewing machine, and make a little outfit.
Okay.
But the last thing I wanted to chat about is very relevant to what we're doing now, which is podcasting, is that Spotify just released a podcast advertising enhancement. So they are really simplifying podcast advertising with two new buying paths. There is now more opportunity to put ads into podcasts. Is that a good thing? I'm not sure. But for marketers, this is a great opportunity, and Spotify is a great way to reach more people and get into their ear holes.
Nice. We like to recap something that's happened in the market in the hope that that it's relevant when you listen to it. So, last time we talked about the, if you're anywhere online, you would have seen the Coldplay concert incident. And one of the things I wanted to talk about this week was how Astronomer basically recruited Gwyneth Paltrow to be their spokesperson for a very short period of time. And I don't know how you found it, Ben, but I just thought this was absolute gold and genius. And I just wanted to unpack that just a little bit to kind of talk about whether that was an appropriate thing for Astronomer to do. How do we feel about that?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, they took a risk. I think that is one of the themes for marketing is you have to be brave. You have to take risks in it, and maybe it backfires. We're seeing a backfire with Sydney Sweeney, and we can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But I think this was definitely the right play for Astronomer. I think it really turned a nasty situation, or maybe not nasty, just, an unfortunate situation into something that has become an asset. And you can't buy this media. This is PR at its finest and could win an award. It's that good. They now have the attention of so many people. And Astronomer, no one knew who Astronomer was before this all happened. And it's kind of like this butterfly effect that is just completely taken over.
And it changed the narrative, right? So I think for me, that was the genius in the decision. Couple of things. Who else could have pulled this off? Was Gwyneth the first choice to be the spokesperson for Astronomer? The thing I think worked really well by using Gwyneth is that she's quite well known for kind of taking the mickey out of herself at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, and it's really clear, it's really clear in the broadcast that it's just a one-time thing, and the satire of it and the speed at which they would have had to have moved to bring that out so quickly within 7 days. And I thought that's great. And that takes bravery to go, right, we've got a moment in time. Google search terms for Astronomer, had increased exponentially. How do you capitalize on that moment? And the other thing I heard some commentary around was, how much do you think she was paid to do that? There would have been some serious money thrown at Gwyneth to do that piece of, and she would have had to make that decision really quickly as well.
Indeed. And I mean, it's her brand on the line. I think I think everyone made the right decision. I was trying to think, is there any losers in this whole equation? And I think, the people that probably aren't feeling so great at the moment are the families involved and the individuals involved.
True. Yeah.
But I think everyone, Astronomer, I mean, I don't know the inner workings of the company, but this sounds like they are now repositioning themselves and could do a lot with this new attention they have.
Yeah, agreed. They exited the problem in theory, right? So they exited the two people that were effectively the problem. They've done some positive PR. Let's see where this goes. So shall we move into our actual marketing topic for the week?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I kind of want to preface this by saying, one of the things we're hearing at the moment, certainly in my circles, but I imagine probably in yours, is that, it's harder and harder to make a buck, I guess, and marketing budgets are under scrutiny. And the idea of having your marketing budget cut is not a new one, and I think we can probably both speak to that. And I feel like that's probably something that's on people's minds at the moment, this potential idea of what happens if the CFO, the CEO, your marketing director comes to you and says, right, that's it, I need you to cut your budget in half. So we'll kind of look at what do you do when that happens? And, I think, has that happened to you, Ben? Let's start there. Is this something that has occurred to you in your marketing career?
Many times. And I think it's the reality of work. Budgets move and change. The reason that our jobs exist, the reason that campaigns exist is because someone's made a decision and said, we're going to invest in this. We're going to assign budget, and budgets move and change. Priorities change. Economies change. I think what we're facing in at the moment is very uncertain times brought on by global financial insecurity. We've got conflict happening. We've got, AI that's disrupting workplaces and industries, especially marketing. So I think, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. And a lot of times when companies feel that, they will double down and be more conservative and cut budgets. And I think marketing is often first on the chopping block.
Yeah. And look, I can speak from personal experience. I was reflecting on this and, almost every brand that I've worked on at some point has had a budget cut. So back when I was working at Bend On, we had budgets asked to be cut. Often what happens in retail and FMCG world is they'll come to you and go, look, what is your committed spend and what's not committed? And marketers go through the exercise of you go through your plan and you go, what's an absolute must do and what can I let go of? And as I've kind of progressed through in time, you can get smart about your approach sometimes, and you can commit to things that you want to keep and hold that money onto. And sometimes there's a little bit of a slush fund in your budget that you're like really happy to just sort of hand over and go, oh, look, I found some percentage of budget, but it was kind of there already. But CFOs aren't blind to that either, right? And one of the companies I'm working with at the moment, we work on a calendar year, and everything was front loaded to the front half of the year with the theory, which is not a bad one. The theory was if we go really well, maybe we can unlock some more spend in the back half. It's not looking like that's going to happen. At this stage, we haven't had cuts, but certainly we're sitting here at the end of July, absolutely looking at budgets and going, right, where should that money be spent? And if we think about how a budget's broken down, there's usually media spend. There'll be below the line activity, which is supporting your retailers. In my world, there might be things like sampling and activation, and then you're looking at channel splits. So if you're looking at your above the line media spend, what are you going to sacrifice? Is it your social media? Is it your, whatever's in your marketing plan? You've got to take a long, hard look at it.
And what do you see as kind of, I'm going to use some jargon, the low-hanging fruit, Steph? What's the low-hanging fruit in most marketing budgets?
We could spend a long time talking about that. It depends on the job to be done. So if someone's coming to you and going, that's it. So let's use some round numbers. Let's just say let's say you're lucky enough to have $1 million budget in marketing, and so that'll be split up by percentages. So it depends on the job to be done for that particular brand or that product. So if your job is, often the thing that is easiest to cut is your media spend, because it's the most visible thing. You can go to your media agency and go, look, that's it. We thought we had $300,000 in advertising. I'm really sorry, we're pulling all of that. And often that's the stuff that's long-term brand building. So it's easy to go, we're just not going to do that brand ad, but what we will do is we'll do that retail offer, because you know what? We need to drive some more sales of that thing over here. I don't know. That's been my experience. So it's not so much low-hanging fruit. It's the things that the CFO goes, it's why was that going to deliver me anything right now? If it's not, let's cut it. And I think it's good to kind of let's debate there.
Definitely. And that is what I see all the time in different brands. It's this short-termism, short-term thinking, not considering the impact that will have, next year, or for the next couple of years. And a lot of that short-term thinking can really damage a brand.
Yeah, but if you're sitting in the CFO's seat, right, and you're going, well, we're losing money, we're just not making enough money. So how do we, I'm going to continue to lose money. And I think if we're thinking about being financially responsible, I think the best approach if someone comes to you and says, look, we need you to look at your budget and put a magnifying glass to it. I think the best thing to do is to really understand what it is. What is it that the business is trying to achieve? So how far off the goals of the business are you? And so if you're in a lucky enough position to be relatively close to the sales numbers of a business, then you can look at your marketing activity and decide what part of that activity is delivering or not delivering against those results. So that should be part of the decision making, I think.
And it shouldn't be a surprise. So I think as marketers, if we are in the right conversations, it shouldn't be a surprise that we should be able to see these budget cuts coming. Like if we're doing our job, we should understand exactly what is happening with sales, what is happening with revenue. We may not see the cost side of it, but we should have a good understanding of the P&L. Yeah. And even more, and this is really hard, and I know a lot of marketers focus on this, but it's our marketing analytics, and it's being able to show the activity and how that impacts sales and revenue. And by having that understanding and having that data and being able to articulate it and show it to your CFO, marketing then becomes not as easy to cut. So if you can show, all right, you cut $1 and you're going to be losing $5 for every marketing dollar you cut. If you can show that, it's harder to make that cut from the finance team.
Yeah. And I think, look, if I think back, so that's all very well and good, right? But I think if I think back to when I was a brand manager working, and at that level, and particularly in brand management world, I worked for companies that had multiple brands. So there might be 3 or 4 brand managers in a business. And so the attitude that I certainly had back in at that level is I just would fight for my brand, to go, well, I just don't want to give up any of my budget. Can't we take it from another budget? And I think, it'd be worth thinking about what do you do when you're in that middle tier? Maybe you're kind of, you're not quite at that, you really don't have that visibility of what's going on, but your manager comes to you and says, look, really sorry, you've got to cut your budget. And for me personally, 10 or 15 years ago, I took that really personally. And I go, okay, if you take my budget, I'm not going to be able to do my job. That's it. I can't do my job.
It is hard if your budget gets cut, but we all have to understand that none of this is personal, right? Like this is some person in finance that you probably don't know making these decisions, or this could be coming from the market. So it could be coming from the shareholders. It could be coming from the board. There could be, Trump goes and puts in tariffs everywhere. Like a lot of these things are flow on economic impacts, and it's definitely not personal. I mean, I think that in the most extreme case, when things get really tough, headcount gets impacted. And I think that's what marketers should be really concerned about is, yes, your marketing budget gets cut, but you still have a job.
Yeah, it's your budget or your job. Like that could, and look, I've seen it come down to that as well.
And sometimes it does. But I think as long as you have a job, you have a lot to use. Yes, you might have lost some of your space and your spend.
Your fun money.
But you can still be effective. And I think this is where it's important to be ready for this day. So we've mentioned one way to be ready for this day, which is know your numbers. And, if revenue and sales are dropping, you can take action and maybe proactively go to the CFO with some ideas or your leadership team. But it's also then building a bit of a war chest so that when this day comes, you have some things to play with.
I think the 2 things that I would advise if I was being asked, if in a best case scenario, and you can see the direction if you're working in a sort of a commercial environment, you should be looking and reporting on what's happening in the market anyway, right? So kind of looking at your numbers on a monthly basis and going, right, sales are here. We've spent this much money in marketing. The results are looking like this. So you can, after 3 months, you can generally get a sense of the direction that it's heading. If you were, I think the key to being really smart and on top of it is to go, look, I can see that we're behind in this channel or we're behind against this metric. I recommend that maybe some things in the budget are nice to do, right? So they're the kind of the cherry on the top. They're often the things that are potentially more expensive to execute with a lower return. So in FMCG world, that would be things like sampling and activations. So activations are incredibly expensive to build, but for quite low return. Often they're not big exercises in broad reach. So I'd be proactively thinking if things are not going in the direction that you were hoping, I wouldn't be sitting there and just sort of going, I'm still turning up to my job every day, and let's just hope nobody notices. If you can put yourself in a position to go to your manager or go to your leader and say, I've just been doing some thinking. I reckon if we move some money into here, this might drive traffic to our website. This might create more leads in our funnel, for example. I think that's the first thing you can do. The second thing is, go be proactive. But then if you haven't had the foresight to do that, when you are asked to do a budget cut, for the love of God, be compliant. if it's the right thing to do, absolutely go, yes, how can I help you? And go through that budget with a fine-tooth comb and work with your agency partners if you've got them and give them the full story and go, hey, look, this is what's happening. What can we do? Maybe we can shift some money around in our channels. Maybe we can change the billing cycle. There are other levers you can pull.
Maybe you can consolidate campaigns. Maybe you're running 5 that can be turned into 1.
Yeah.
I would say, let your agency know early. They can bring resources and ideas that you may not have even thought about.
Yeah.
And they can also help you with the conversations with finance. They can pull data. They can pull resources to help you with your discussion. So hopefully everyone has a really good relationship with their agencies, and pull on them. And you can also just use them as your therapist. You can give them a call and let them know your troubles, because they would have seen it before, and they're there to help you. They're there to be your partner. So definitely lean on your agencies.
Yeah, and I think so, I often see, particularly in kind of middle range marketing, I often see the ability to have a tough conversation as a gap. And I've definitely had people on my team who've been afraid to have that courageous conversation with an agency and go, look, hey, things like it's almost like that. It's like they're taking on that personal failure and going, I'm really sorry, I've got to pull the budget, or can we look at things a different way? And I would put it to you that actually agencies are fine with it. You wouldn't be the first client, and it can be it's not a no, it's just a not now. We need to rethink about it. We need to get our sales back to where they've got to get to, and then we're happy to reinvest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that real partnership that gives that relationship longevity as well.
So let's flip that on its head, because there's another side to this, which is, when should we fight for the budget? When is it appropriate to go, absolutely not cutting my budget?
Well, I think you never just want to give it up on the first ask. You always want to have a bit of fight in you. And I think as marketers, we definitely are, I would say, more yes people, and we want to help. We want to please people. We're offering solutions. But definitely you want to fight. You want to fight, and you want to fight with numbers.
Yep.
Because it's the numbers. Numbers is the language that finance speaks. And if you can fight with numbers and facts, that's going to take you much further than, just being generally upset.
Yeah, and I think it would be about showing, where possible, the opportunity cost, right? So there's the hard cost of actually spending the marketing budget, but if it's well thought through and it's aligned to the strategic goals of the business, and it's, you're not just spending money because you happen to have been given $1 million and you just found a way to spend it. I think there's a case to, really look at the numbers of going, what's the opportunity cost of reducing our spend? And sometimes what you then do is look at market context. So where is the market sitting? Where is your share? What are your competitors doing? And so if you do pull back on spend, does that then do you then have more ground to gain later on? And so you can widen that gap sometimes by just not spending. But you've got to look at the numbers, and if you're speaking to a CFO, you've got to quantify what that cost of doing nothing is.
It's kind of like investing. Especially if you're buying online in these auctions for ad space, it is like investing. And what happens when a lot of people and a lot of brands start exiting the market, the price for attention goes down, and the smart brands are ready for this moment, and the smart marketers see this change. They see people pulling their marketing budgets back, and they double down. Maybe they don't increase their marketing budget, but maybe they keep it the same, or maybe they reduce it just a bit. And the brands that stay, I think the key is, don't go dark, because if you go dark, then you're out of the market. You're out of the attention market.
You're out of mind. Yeah.
Out of mind. So even if you've got a bit to stay in, you're going to be getting more return per dollar in those auctions because everyone else has pulled out. So the price goes down. When everyone's in, the price goes up.
We saw that in COVID. I think there was never a more obvious time. And the business I was working for in COVID did exactly the same as everybody else. And all the budgets were cut. And that was, unprecedented times.
We are living in unprecedented times.
But there were brands that doubled down during COVID, and they kept advertising because, and then your share of voice goes up hugely.
And that investment pays off for the following 3, 5, 10 years. So this is the long-term investment, the long chain, and the brands that can do that consistently, like we know the great brands like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and
that's exactly right. Yeah. Large brands who've built that built the salience over time because it's always on marketing. There's always a presence in market, right?
And always on marketing doesn't have to mean that you're always doing TVC. You can choose your channels. You can choose your channels that aren't as expensive.
Do you think you could, if you think about channel selection, is there a channel that you'd select that you'd go, this is more effective than another, for example?
Oh, I get this question all the time. And the answer is, it depends.
Yeah.
So it's all about the customer. I get asked all the time, what channel? What's the best channel? Is it Meta? Is it Google? It depends on who you're trying to reach because different generations, different people, different groups use channels in different ways. Some of them are listening to podcasts on Apple. Some of them are listening to podcasts now on YouTube. So YouTube is now a really big podcast platform, especially with vlogs. Some of them are on Facebook every day. Some of them are on Instagram. Some of them have deleted all Meta products and are only using TikTok. Some people have detoxed entirely from digital and they are reading newspapers and listening to the radio. So always, what's the right channel? It depends who you're trying to reach.
And it's about knowing your audience and your target customer, right? So if you're really clear on who it is that you actually need to speak to, then that channel selection becomes an outcome of really understanding what it is that you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell it to. And then hopefully if you've got a good trusted partner that you're working with, you find out the most efficient and effective channel to reach them.
And while the money in the budget is there, build your own channels, build your email, build your SMS, build the channels that you control that are low cost, because if your marketing budget gets cut and you have your customers' email addresses, you can email them. And that's it's kind of free. It's not really free, but you can email them, you can text them, you can use your organic social. You can use your blog on your website. You can use your podcast. Build those channels. Make hay while the sun shines. Build your channels. While you have that budget.
Yeah, and so this reminded me of an example. Back when I was at Bendon, we had most 50% of the budget actually went into the farmers catalogue. This is really showing my age. So 50% of what we sold went through farmers. So product catalogues were the thing, but we did brand campaigns, and I happened to be working on the sports bra range, and so we had a lot of product, right? So in it, I think my advertising got cut, my catalogue budget got cut, so advertising in the farmers catalogue, etc. And it was just getting whittled and whittled and whittled away. And this was at a time I was at brand manager level, so I was just really middle of the road. And then all I had left was product. And so a really big part of sports bras was going out and, we did activations and events and stuff, and we sponsored teams. So we had a sponsorship property and we had product, and that was all I had left. And man, I was really dark at the time, but I look back now, and had we had a database, which we didn't because we sold through a wholesaler, that would have been the thing to use. But product giveaways, we literally were sitting on samples. In fact, I've also done it with Meadowfresh recently with Quick Brekkie. We had products that we could just give away. That sometimes, if that's all you've got left, use it, because it's better than nothing. And I fully agree. So when you, with your idea of like having your own channels and building out your database, because what we all know is that when you put your hands in the, put yourself in the hands of the meta and the rules, and it just takes an algorithm change to completely screw your marketing strategy. Whereas if you've got your own customer database, at least you've got something to work with.
If you're also following an economic flow, so if we're going into recession and you've got stuff to give away, that's what people want. In a recession, people always want free shit, but especially in a recession, giving away product is great because people are hungry for it. They want that sample, they want that free sports bra.
Yeah, and so again, coming back to what if you had no money? Because I think another thing here is, what if you literally are a startup and you don't have a big marketing budget? I think, another really great way, if you've got your product, you've probably also got partners, you've got customers who are absolute advocates for your company or for your brand, giving them things to trial or asking them to do testimonials. That's kind of free advertising. User-generated content is another kind of effective, cheaper way of getting out and still getting your brand out with the right target audience, but without having to spend a lot of money.
And referral bonuses, for your loyal customers, get them to refer you and reward them. Some of the best campaigns are like, share this code, you get $20 and your friend gets $20 off, and that can be really powerful as well, because if you're giving value back to your customers, they're going to find customers like them who will probably have similar values and similar needs. It's brilliant. So there's so many ideas.
Yeah. And I think, and again, it never becomes more important when money is tight. Don't forget to measure those initiatives, and kind of the things that work, double down and do those. So if you can see incremental gains with some of that smaller activity, just keep going until you can start to get those proof points and start to grow again.
And definitely prioritize the human relationships that are valuable. So think about the humans, think about your partners, think about, who needs this. Think about relationships for the long term. And I think if we're thinking about the humans at the end and thinking about long-term relationships, I think the decisions become a bit easier about where to cut and what to keep.
And, another point that I'd like to make, so, I've had the pleasure of working on, I've had some brands, some really big brands that have had really big budgets, but you know what, I've actually had really small brands that have had absolutely nothing. And I really want to challenge the idea that having more money, makes you a better marketer and actually gives you better results, because I actually don't fundamentally think that that's true. And, I think back, one of my early careers was working for Line 7, and in that world we did fashion shoots, and we literally, we just had no money. And my boss said to me, and I was in my early 20s, and my boss said to me, right, we've got to do a photo shoot for the new fashion range. We don't have a location. We're just going to go down to West Haven Marina and we're just going to walk and we're going to find someone's boat to shoot on. And that would, I can only imagine how horrifying that might be for some young people these days. But we literally had, and I was protesting as well, but we walked down and we found this amazing yacht, and I think we just gave them some vouchers for some clothes, and we shot an entire campaign, and then
on a free boat.
And then, but I've also got a tale of woe where that didn't work so well. So on another shoot, we had to save some money, and I think it was $750 we ended up hiring a van rather than paying the agency to put all the clothes in. For some reason, it was cheaper. So we hired this big van, and it was my job to rack all the clothes up and drive it out to location. I miscalculated the long wheelbase, and I took out a car on
Oh no!
At 5:30 in the morning, and so that $750 went on the excess. So sometimes it doesn't always save you money.
Yeah, you want to know where to spend that money.
Yeah, maybe not.
And I think we saw, to your point, that big budgets don't mean great campaigns. Money doesn't buy taste, and in the same way, if you've got a bad idea and you throw lots of money at it, it doesn't make it a good idea. It just makes it a bad idea with lots of money behind it.
And same with channels, right? So if you've got more money to throw at Meta, but your targeting is not right and you don't really know who you're speaking to, but hey, you've got heaps of money, so let's just target everybody. Again, that I think that's just not good planning. So and I think that's sometimes that's marketers can get a bad rap for just spending money without intent. So regardless of whether you've got a big budget or a small one, I think it all just comes back to that idea of knowing exactly why you're doing it.
Well, the crazy thing is, we're talking about budget cuts, but the crazy thing is sometimes these budgets come back very quickly, and then you've got another problem on your hands because you've switched off all of your channels. You don't have any new creative because you've killed that photo shoot and you've shut down that video. And then all of a sudden finance come back and they're like, we've got all your budget again.
We found some money.
We've got 6 months of budget that you now need to spend in 3 months. And then you're running around like headless chickens trying to, get it back. So I think, it happens so crazy like that. I think we've all been in places where you've got more budget that you can spend. And
yes.
I think it's being ready for that as well. Like as the tech, our friends and product are really good at this, and they call it a backlog. And so whenever they have additional resource, and additional resource for product people is additional developers and additional people that can work on that product, if they get more resource, they have a long laundry list of stuff that they want to do, that we want to put a new button here and we want to add this functionality to this piece of software. So as marketers, maybe we take a leaf from product and have a wish list up our sleeves so that when finance come to us and say, you've got, 1.5 million, but you have to spend it in the next 90 days, we can say, well, here's 3 ideas. Or we can turn to our good friend called AI. And, AI, I mean, we haven't talked about it this episode, which is crazy, but AI can help solve problems. So if you're stuck, test your ideas with AI.
Yeah, exactly. I was just reflecting. I did once. The only time I think it's ever happened to me where someone's given me $1 million and says, "We want you to upweight every single thing that you do in summer, and you've got 6 weeks to go to market." And it was amazing, and we all rallied round. But it was a really complicated. It was a below the line execution on an alcohol brand. It was an absolute summer takeover. And I've, reflecting back on that, we just executed it. We paid a lot in things like transport and logistics because we weren't prepared. So whilst sometimes it's nice and very rare that somebody will come to you and go, here's another $1 million, happy days, I think you're right. Have a plan. And it's always nice to kind of go, well, what would we outweight if we had the money?
And look at the people again, the people that got the budgets cut, go to them first, go to your people that help you out and offer them the extra budget first, and reward that loyalty with your partners.
Fantastic. So I think it might be really interesting to hear from anyone who's had a budget cut recently and maybe hear some war stories we can share in our next episode potentially. I think it'd be really topical at the moment.
Yeah, we do want to hear from our audience, all 10 of you. No, I think there might be more. But yeah, we do want to hear from you. We're still initiating our channels, but check the show notes and we'll include a way to get in touch with Steph and I.
Yeah, and any feedback, right? So yeah, we're here for the feedback. We're here to learn as we go.
Let's talk about what's coming up. We are working on the next episode. We don't have a topic quite yet.
We cannot have that in the edit.
No, we can.
Can we?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Okay.
We plan this episode every week, and I'm always WhatsApping Steph with different articles and pictures of Labubu's and all sorts of things. And yeah, we plan this every week and we publish every week. So
we're not short of ideas. We're just short of them for next week. Well, no, we just haven't nailed down our final idea yet.
Exactly. Well, good. Enjoy your weekend, Steph, and everyone.
You too.
And we will see you next week.